This is question number 14 of homework 11. Classify the following situation as a supply or demand shock. Steel workers go on strike for 4 weeks. So different versions, we have different this setup here. So here is steel workers go on strike for 4 weeks. Sometimes the setup here may be, for example, financial frictions increase, or favorable weather increases the production, something like that. And sometimes it may be the firms and the consumers becomes more optimistic. So if steel workers go on strike for 4 weeks, so obviously production will decrease, right? So it's a supply shock, and it's a negative supply shock, and this is only temporary, right? Because if they go back to work again, then production probably will resume to the original level. So it's only temporary. So this is a negative temporary supply shock. And determine the effects on inflation and output in the short run and the long run using ADAS graph analysis. In the short run, so suppose I pull out I pull out a scratch paper and I write down I just depict what's gonna happen. So we know that the horizontal axis is the aggregate output, and vertical axis here is the inflation. And we have the AD curve and AS curve. And in general, we assume that the original point is the non-run equilibrium. So this is non-run AS. And this is short run. Upper sloping, that's the short run AS. And downward sloping, this is the AD, aggregate demand. So this is the original. So pi, let's say this is 1.1, and hence this level here is the Y1, and because this is a non-run equilibrium, so we call this potential output. So that's the original position, and this is, as we said, this is a short run negative supply shock, and because it's negative, so the supply curve should shift to the left, right? Up and to the left. So this is the new short run AS. So let me call this 2. So original point here, let's say this is 1. Okay, so and that the new equilibrium is the intersection between the new short run aggregate supply curve and the original demand curve. So that's this point here. Let's call this 2. So you can see that compared with the original pi 1, pi 2 has increased, right? Inflation has gone up. And what about output? Output has, compared with the original level right here, output has decreased, right? So that's what happened in the short run. So in the short run, output will decrease and inflation will go up. But the economy doesn't stop at this point. Why? Because the output here is not at its potential level. So we have a gap. In this case, we have a negative gap. Output is lower than the potential level. So what's going to happen to the worker's wage if output is going to be lower? So suppose this is in recession, right? This is like the recession. Output will be lower, and if output will be lower, there's a lot of slack in the economy. So there are many people who want to work, but there are fewer jobs available. So that means there's some slack in the economy. So if more people are looking for jobs and fewer jobs are available, we know there is a downward pressure on the wage, right? So wage is gonna come down gradually. When wage is coming down, because wage is one type of cost for firms, right? So firms, the price will also gradually come down. So, and hence the inflation, price inflation, right? Price goes down, inflation also will go down. So you see that the gradually, let me use a different color pen, probably that's easy. Let's use yellow. Oh, this is so. Anyway, yeah, this short run supply curve will gradually move down, So, but if the level, if it's not going back to its original level, then there's still a gap, right? There's still a gap between the level of the output and the potential level. So there's still downward pressure on the wage, hence the price, hence the inflation. So until this short run supply curve goes back to the original level, then output doesn't have any gap. Hence, there's no downward or upward pressure on the price, hence the inflation. So gradually, the short run supply curve will move back to its original level. Hence, the output will go back to its original level, and inflation will also go back to the original level. So that's what gonna happen in the long run. So output remains the same. That's compared with the original level, but compared with the new equilibrium point, it's gonna gradually increase, right? Output gradually will rises to potential, and inflation will gradually decreases to its original point level. But if, as I said, different versions may give you different setup here. So if, for example, if this is the business and the consumers become more optimistic, then that becomes a positive demand shock. So in that case, you have to move this AD curve. AD curve will shift to the right, hence where that will drive up the inflation and also drive up the output. But then if output is greater than the original level, potential level, then you have a positive gap. And then there's a upward pressure, because positive gap means that this like economy is booming, right? Economy is booming. So there are many jobs available, but there are fewer workers available. Hence, there's tightness in the labor market. Hence, wage will gradually go up, and that will shift the AS curve up. So AD curve will shift to the right, and AS curve will catch up until the output falls back to its original level. But at this level of the output, you see that the inflation will be higher than the original level. So that's a positive demand shock. But here, the temporary supply shock, you don't have any change on either the output or the inflation. So now let's check which of these four charts matches what we just did. So this is the negative supply shock. So we said we're shifted to the left. So which curve shifted to the left and up? So that's this B here. And any other curve? No, this is going down, actually going to the right. And this is also shifting up. So we have to be careful. Okay, so now we have limited our choices to be either B or D, but between B and D, we have to go further. So if it's a temporary supply shock, this will shift up. But this B, you see that in the long run, actually, it shows you the AD curve shift to the right, which is not what we just did, right? What we just did is the AS curve gradually goes down. So what happened is graph D instead of graph B. So we choose B. And for different versions of the setup, you just need to based on whether it's a demand shock, and you also have the positive demand shock or negative demand shock, or whether it's a supply shock and positive supply shock or negative supply shock, then you have a different choices here.